Good afternoon, everyone. In today's video, I'd like to share a bearish setup that I'm looking at inside of NTNX, ticker symbol NTNX. I'll start first with the technicals and build up my case for why I think there's a nice bearish setup to be had here, and then I'll share the options trade that I'm looking at to try and take advantage of this where the risk to reward is skewed in our favor. Now, let's start first with a basic trend line analysis here using just price action, and then I'll start to build up more and more with our other indicators that we're used to seeing. Starting off with only price action, if we take our most recent high and we start to draw a trend line down, trying to connect as many of these candles as we can, it's a fairly clean downtrend where currently we're towards the upper end of this trend line, giving us a nice opportunity to enter. So that's analysis number one, which is basic downward trend, and we're currently bouncing towards the upper end of this down trend line. Now, the second step that we have is this double bottom right here, which to me is looking more like we're inclined to break that double bottom as opposed to actually see it being held. Volume has also started to confirm that, and to me, this is just looking like a level that we're likely to fall below as opposed to bounce from, given today's candle. Now, of course, I would be proven wrong if tomorrow's candle shows strength and we break right above this trend line, but for the time being, let's operate under the assumption that that does not happen. So let me take our horizontal price level tool right here and draw it out connecting this double bottom, and I'll extend it to the left. Now, while this is a relatively arbitrary line in the sand, this line has been fairly noteworthy in the past. We can see the clear resistance spots where price action failed right here, and if I continue to keep zooming out here, this level acted as support this time, and when we broke above it was with high volume, and prior to that, this level acted as support before. Again, when we fell down off of earnings, it took us a while to come back and retag it. So while it is just a random line that we've drawn on our charts, it served to be somewhat symbolic in the past. So if we do break that line, I think there's a reason why you may see a little bit more downward pressure. Now, outside of that, our next level of support, if you will, is right down here near that 25 mark, or at least that's how I see it. And this zone is what I'm looking to try and take advantage of, looking for a move down towards the bottom end of this zone and trying to take advantage of that small move that may take place, where if we can still take small risks to try and see if that level gets hit, well, I think that makes a lot of sense. So just using price level and volume, that's what I'm seeing. Now let's start to layer in some of our indicators here. So if I load in our market pulse to get an idea of what trend is looking like objectively, we can see the trend very much bearish. Our market pulse is red, and we're in a stage of deceleration. We also had a bearish squeeze signal set up today, suggesting that we expect this squeeze to trigger bearishly. So let's see what the squeeze is looking like right here. The squeeze histogram very clearly below zero. So far to me, looks like we're gearing up to fire short, and the squeeze has been building up for quite some time, where when it does fire, I would hope that it leads to some nice thrust movement down lower, as opposed to one of those squeezes that does a whole lot of nothing. So that's the squeeze perspective. The last technical measure that I'll bring up here is our moving averages. They're all stacked bearishly, 8, 21, 34, 50, and 200. So again, our trend is also very much bearish. So those are all of the different technicals, which is why NTNX first came onto our charts in the first place. It was this arrow that started everything. And analyzing price action, to me, this looks like we're likely to break this double bottom and see more downward movement with the squeeze firing short. Now let's try and find a way to take advantage of that idea if it does pan out. So for that, I'll come into our trade tab. And the trade I'm looking at is in the 37 days out series. That's the Feb monthlies. Now I'm looking at buying the 27.5s, which are currently anywhere between 51 and 62 bucks, and selling the 25s against that, which is one strike above it. Currently, that's going for a net debit of 33 cents or $33. And if we come inside of the Analyze tab to see what that looks like, we're risking on, let's actually make this one contract, we're risking 33 bucks to try and make potentially 217. Our break even is 27.17, which if I come back to our charts, 27.17, let's see if that fits inside of this zone. So the bottom end of our zone we had was right around that 26.50. 27.17 would be close towards the bottom, but not quite the bottom. Very much inside of this region where I think price action is likely to head towards. Now the one risk here, or the one caveat I'll say, is 37 days enough? Now our expected move for 37 days as of right now is $3.55, let's call it rounded up. And if we subtract 355 from our current price, let's pull up a calculator so we can do this. 30.61 minus 3.55 gives us 27.06, which the 27.17 price mark that we're looking at is well inside of that. So to me, this trade seems like a likely trade that may just work out. The risk involved on this trade is small enough that regardless of your account size, I think you can scale it for a position that's fairly easy to manage. Our stop is above our previous wicks right here, or a break above this trend line. So a very clear stop. We're towards the edge, just trying to see if we can catch a nice bearish move down lower. And if we do see this squeeze start to get going, if we see the volatility pick right back up inside of NTNX and the squeeze takes us down towards that 26.50 mark, this trade will pay fairly nicely for taking the risk of trying to essentially short at this current moment. So that's the trade that I'm looking at inside of NTNX and how I'm looking to try and play it. Hopefully this video helps for those of you looking to try and find other bearish setups as this volatility period continues to progress. Take care everyone, good luck trading, and we'll see you in the next update.